Okay, so in this portion of the video, we're going to, move ahead a little bit quicker and color the lips and the teeth and see if we can't get to the eyes. So let's get started. I am going to, for at least here, make the head level layer that we just worked on invisible. So I just have the teeth, and I'm also going to move or make these into. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Um, So I want to work on the mouth layer right now, and I'm going to unlock the mouth layer and select it, deselect to the side, and zoom in so I can see it better. Now I'm going to put the head layer back into visibility, and earlier we talked about making the light coming from this side, and wherever you choose to have the light coming from is fine as long as you make every other part of this character corresponding. So the light is coming from this side every time. So we're going to keep that in mind with the lips, that the light is coming from up here. So make the head layer disappear again. And so let's give these lips some highlights. So if the light is coming from this angle, you're going to have a highlight on the lips here, and maybe even possibly right here. But there will also be a shadow under this lip, and maybe even possibly a shadow under this lip. But let's keep it simple though. We don't want to get too crazy, and this isn't a fine art class. We're animating here, so we're going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to start off by making a straight line using the line tool. Remember the hotkey for the line tool is N. And before I get crazy and start adjusting this line in here, one thing I might suggest to you is if I were to click on the mouth layer, so it's completely selected again, everything's highlighted including the lines, and come over here to the selection tool. So now that I have the selection tool selected, this whole layer is completely selected. If I go over to the properties menu, I can adjust the width of the stroke, and I can make it thicker, too thick. I can make it very thin. But instead of doing that, I'm going to suggest you go over to the style and click hairline. So when I click away, this line is very thin, and that's going to make it a lot easier if you're going to make really subtle adjustments. So let's get going. First thing I want to do is I want to add a point to match this point right here. So holding down Alt, draw this point in, and now I can start making a curve. And I'm going to try and mirror this line as best I can. One thing to keep in mind that is if you have this line and it's on this layer and it intersects with a line that's already there, that line has become fused. So if I try to adjust this line at the corner, it's actually going to move the whole shape. It's going to move that line, and that can get kind of tricky. So I'm going to backstep, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z again. So before I connect this line, I want to make sure that I am as close to the adjustment as I'm going to be. So going to the snap objects, and let's snap this to the corner here, and let's also snap the corner on this lip. Turn snap off, and let's go ahead and just adjust this line. Alright, so we'll just call this the highlight, just that little crest of light that's a little bit lighter than the rest of it. And I'll take a selection from this lip and go down here into this the color selection, and in brightness bump it up a little bit, and in saturation knock it down a little bit. So I got this lighter color and fill it, so as you can see it's lighter. And now we'll come down to the bottom lip and we'll make a shadow on this end. So I'll do it the same way. N, hotkey for line tool, put a line, and then V, hotkey for selection tool, and I'll start by making my curve. So when I attach these corners, this middle part won't get stuck to this top line. I'll put on my snapping, and I'll snap it to right about there, and right about there looks fine, and just adjust this line down. And same thing, I'll take a color swatch from the purple that's already there, and this time I'll go to brightness and knock it down a little bit. And I could even go to saturation and bump it up a little bit. Play with these until you get them where you feel it works right. Maybe knock the saturation down a little bit. And bam, now we have a shadow. Now if we go back to the color example that I showed earlier, I put these nice little Beetlejuice-like lines in there, and I'll show you how I did that. So again, with the wonderful line tool, N, I'm going to make a series of lines that intersect all the way through the lip. I don't know if that one intersect all the way, so I'm going to backstep and make another one and make sure they intersect completely through the lip. So now these lines are fused here and here. Wherever they intersect another line, they become fused. So keep that in mind. Don't go and try moving these corner points because you'll actually distort the whole shape. Actually, I'm going to redo these lines and see how I followed the form a little bit with these lines. I want to do the same with this line, these lines. Make them follow the form a little bit. And now I'm going to give them some curvature. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see what I'm going to do. Go to the selection tool and just give them some curvature. So they add in giving the lips a sense of volume. And notice I'm decreasing the amount of curve as I get to this center point and increasing it the farther I get away from it. I'll do the same up here. Actually, oh, you see how I grab that point instead of the center of the line? I have to make sure that I do that. I'm going to have to zoom in on this one since it's so small. And you can see that when I hover my cursor next to this line, that icon will change right under the cursor. So if it's a curved line, that means I have the line selected, accept. And if it's an angle, that means I have the corner selected, backstep. And I want to turn snapping off for these fine adjustments. Alright, let's zoom back out so I can see this whole image. So again, these curves are decreasing and increasing the closer and farther away they get from the center point. Okay, so now I'm going to take a color swatch from actually the darkest part and go to brightness and brighten it up just a touch. Now this is all preference and personal styling, so you can do this however you want, take it or leave it. And I'm just going to do every other line. And maybe alternate the pattern on the upper lips. Alright, so the last thing I want to do is put a gradient on it. And maybe I should have put the gradient on the whole thing before I went and put these lines in here, but I guess it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to take a selection of this color, but before I do, I want to make sure and select the gradient, radial gradient. Come over here and take a selection of this purple and a selection of the same purple, and remember the outside color is what we want to be the darker. So with this selected, you can tell it's selected because it's highlighted in black. When it's not selected, it'll be white. So with the right selected, I'm going to drop it down just a touch. And that's good enough for me. I just want it ever so slightly, maybe just a touch more. And I'm going to go and start filling just this purple, the gradient I just made. Alright, so before I make an adjustment to the gradient, I got to zoom out so I can see that bounding box, hit the gradient tool, Might have to zoom out even more. Okay, here we go. Bring it in, zoom in, and let's shape this. All right, and keep in mind that we had brought the highlight around this end, so we want to do the same thing for this example. All right, and now we can actually do the same thing for this color purple. So with the gradient selected still, I'll double click it, take a sample of the darker purple, take a sample of the same darker purple, and on the right, just going to drop it down a little bit and fill just the darker shades of purple in on the lips. Same process, zoom way out, get your gradient transform selection tool, do the best you can, select that. I guess I have to zoom in a little bit to select it. Alright, I'm going to zoom way out and adjust this modifier down, zoom back in, and let's adjust this again one more time. Alright, so same process in which we use to get rid of the lines on the head. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, get the eraser tool, make sure the eraser tool's mode is still on erase lines, and just erase this whole thing. Zoom in, see any minor adjustments. I don't know if this line bothers me or not, so I can actually go in and just adjust it, and that looks a lot better. And I can even get the brush tool and get a really get a solid color and lighten it up quite a bit using brightness and saturation, and draw on some even brighter highlights, like the highlights you see on lipstick commercials. Okay, so I'm going to proceed detailing the rest of this face out, but I'm going to speed it up. So there's going to be very little instruction for the rest of this. It's just going to be sped up. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, please bring them to class. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to be putting some of these finishing touches on the eyebrows and this corner thing on the mouth. I just want to let you know that this might be the way some of these videos progress. They're just going to be a little bit sped up. If you do have any questions on anything I did, or you can't figure it out by rewatching some part, come to class, ask a question. If you can't wait until class, always post something on the discussion board. I'll be checking that every evening. So thank you very much for watching these tutorials, and I hope your characters come along nice and colored. I can't wait to see them next class. Thank you.